welcome to the topic section. I have a wonderful guest because I told y'all I was bring in subject matter experts, y'all, to share their story. And I am honored to have Jessper on my show where we're going to be talking about team building, culture building, as well as how do you foster that from within yourself to help the organization that you're in. Jessper, go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience.
Trente and everyone out there, good morning from Los Angeles. I'm excited to join you today. So I'd like to start off by sharing a quick story, and it's a memory that my mother had of me, an early memory. She shared it with me a few years ago, but the memory was when I was maybe about age 5 or 6. I actually said, when I grow up, I want to be a leader. Now we think about that, sounds really cool, but if you reflect deeply, at age 5 or 6, what does a 5 or 6-year-old know about leadership? However, over time, I realized various opportunities just fell into my lap. Growing up, I was always encouraged to do volunteer work and community service and other things in serving the community. When I went to college, I was involved in extracurricular activities like student government and youth student orientation. When I landed my first job right out of college, I was actually promoted to a team leader position, and that gave me the opportunity to really lead a team. And I was inspired by the work I did during that time. I went back to school to get my executive master's degree in leadership. And then after graduating, I landed into a management development program for a Fortune 500 company. So I have a academic and corporate background in leadership. And what I've learned over the years, leadership to me is really putting in the time and effort to make a difference in yourself and the lives of others. So that's what leadership means to me.
I absolutely love that. I resonate on it from the deepest level. At 2 years old, I had my hands on my hip and I still have this photo. And my family has deemed me the chairman of the board since I was two. Uh, and I have been doing my best to live up to that expectation, but also I've always been a natural leader as well. And I love telling people you can lead without you having a leader title. It's leading with from within to help others lead more efficient. And that is beautiful too. So I love to hear that you got your academic side and your corporate side together because I love a holistic approach. I really do. It makes me excited. Sorry, y'all. Don't mind my little shakety shakes. I'm sure I'm just excited right now
I'm loving
because
it.
I love leadership. And the reason I love leadership is because what I found is having a great leader is having someone that's an active listener who sees your greatness, even when you can't, and they help you achieve that greatness while you're with them, or they plant the seed so in your next, you're continually growing. So I love to hear that you started from a young age. And I have some questions because you have, I believe it's here, this is a fun name. Fam family what is this?
Family.
Family? Okay, I gotta know what this is. So I'm like, I don't know how to say it, but it has intrigued me. What does this mean?
Absolutely. With family, it's a playoff of the word family and leadership. When I look at what it means to me and the values, I see it as a sense of belonging, a sense of community, a sense of bringing people together. And that word family entails those values in what I believe leadership is to be.
Oh, I love that. It's the compassionate approach because when you have a
Absolutely.
family member, you are very compassionate and give them a lot more grace. Also, when you are thinking about just normal interactions of connection. So I love it. Like I'm here for it. I'm here for it right now. Oh, okay. Y'all have to ask him more questions, not just be in awestruck. I can do this. I can do this. I could be a professional. Uh
Real quick though, I wanted to mention a great point that you brought up earlier, believing in others. It reminds me of a quote that I've been sharing a lot from John Maxwell. And in one of his books, John Maxwell says, helping others grow and develop brings great joy, satisfaction, and energy. And I'll say that again. Helping others grow and develop brings great joy, satisfaction, and energy. And I picked that up from John Maxwell, and it really brings a lot to what we can offer as leaders in helping others become better versions of themselves. So you brought up an excellent point earlier.
I love that. One person that I love so much is a John Maxwell. I love that dude. And I've been reading his books since I was young. I have devotionals that I still open to today. And like, what's today's date? Okay, let me see what John Maxwell said about today. And I absolutely love it. So many listeners can be aspiring leaders and not realizing that they're already leaders. Okay, little side note. But at the end of the day, I would love to know what are some key qualities or habits that they can start developing now to be effective leaders of their life and or company.
Absolutely. It starts with active listening. I know there's research out there that many people speak or listen to respond instead of listen to understand. And in becoming a more active listener, you're really giving the other person a voice. And when you give the other person a voice, you're really opening them up to be more more. They feel like they're being heard, and when they feel like they're being heard, they'll really put in the time and effort to help you reach your goals or visions that you have in mind. Another one is empathy, really supporting others. The greatest leaders really put in that time and effort to understand what people are going through. I mean, we always hear stories of those micromanagers who just throw tasks at their employees' desk, and all these employees are being burned out, and they're stressed, they're overwhelmed, and all these micromanagers are wondering why, and then you realize it's because these employees, they're not feeling that sense of being understood. They're just getting this mountain of tasks that just piles on top of their desk. And if the manager only took the time to say, "Hey, how are you doing? What can we do to make your day better? How can I help you?" These are the conversations that would make employees a lot more productive.
Oh, I I took notes because that's something as an active listener, you take notes. Okay. You have to write things down because it helps you to remember some of the very key points because learning about, let's say, from a leadership perspective from corporate, learning about your employee and what their personal goals are and their career goals, you can truly champion them. I always tell people what people really want is to feel heard. They want to feel seen and they want to be appreciated. These are the three things everybody wants. And if you can give them these three, oh, they're going to say you one of the best leaders ever right there. Those three. And I love it because like for me, active listening was one of the hardest things to learn. Being able to just sit and to be able to really hear and not want to open your mouth immediately. That is a serious skill by itself and it takes patience. I can say that with yourself. It also takes patience with listening to the other, especially if the other has accessibility issues or differently abled, is what I like to call them. And they are slower to speech. No, you just have to sit, be patient, don't be so quick to speak, and listen, even though you want to. We know, we feel it because we've been here. I'm guessing you've been here too, right? You're like, I just want to say something. You know what? No, I need a pause. I need to really absorb what they're saying because what they're saying is not really what they're saying. Because when you actively listen, you can hear the root of what they're really talking about, not just the surface level, but you can really have a deep understanding and give them what they need because you took the time to actively listen. So I absolutely love it. Um, so my next question for you, because we're about here, I don't want to run out of time, so I'm gonna make sure I ask all the good questions.
Absolutely.
Is company culture. Okay, this is something that every time I go into a company, they have it and it's a little toxic, and I put my little healing juju on. I'm like, you gonna be gone. We gonna not have no negativity. We're gonna take care of ourselves. We ain't gonna burn out today. So my question to you is, as someone that is a leader, Before you became a leader, how did you help build strong and positive culture around you?
Absolutely. First off, I'm going to share statistics about how impactful company culture can be. So when an organization and employees rate their organization as poor, having a poor culture, up to 90% of employees start thinking about quitting. And that is critical for because when you're looking at turnover and that institutional knowledge, that's very valuable because you really do want to keep your best employees intact because they're the ones that are going to move your organization forward. As far as a leader and building that teamwork, for me, my story was I think the greatest example is when I was in college. And as I mentioned earlier, becoming a new student orientation leader, we had different activities where we would learn more about this idea of leadership. We would do team building activities, listen to lectures from some of our great speakers, and then just some bonding. And then I realized that's really making an impact on how we're interacting with each other. And from that experience, I realized you can take that into the workplace. And when you do, like I mentioned with my first job right out of college, I had a team that I had that opportunity to really experiment with different things. We wanted to be more efficient. So we would look at just different processes. And every week I would meet with the team and say, what can we do better? Okay, great. What can we do better? And how about another thing? What can we do better? And then over time, we just moved things around and it became so efficient that you can just walk into the workplace and point A to point B, task 1, 2, 3. It's just so automatic that you don't have to think about it. And when you get to that point, that's when you know your leadership has been effective because the work's getting done and you don't have to put any extra effort because you've already reached a high level of performance.
I love that. What came to my mind is company culture is more than pizza parties. It is completely more than pizza
That's right.
parties. It's building, I will say there are some companies that I've worked for where they had us do a test. I did the what was it? Oh, it's not the Myers-Briggs. I've done that too. I've done the Strengths Finder. This one
Is it disc?
was, yes, it was the disc assessment. I'm very influential, y'all. That's what it says. That's what it says, even though I do all the things. Um, and I'm fine with it. What I can say though is where they drop the ball is not using it, not actually going into the teams and actually instituting this is how this person receives things, because that assessment, one, is expensive, two, it gives you so much good information that you're like, I didn't realize I was in survival mode or my adapted environment. I'm not even operating for my natural, my normalness, my authenticity. So like, how does one, I will say, if they are recognizing that they're having more negative moments as a leader, how can they work towards being more positive and being more involved in their life for their employees?
Absolutely. The first thing I want to make a note on the assessments, that self-awareness is great because it gives you a better understanding of how other team members work. So for example, there's an assessment that I use, and one of the qualities is a leader that prefers structure and a leader who prefers just throwing out wild ideas, brainstorming without any restrictions. And then let's say one leader talks to another leader and asks, why aren't you taking all these risks and just being very creative? Well, that might have been the leader who just preferred structured and having the way things are already organized because that's how they found efficiency. And then that other leader could say, oh, well, why couldn't you be more organized and having everything running more smoothly? Everything's going off the rails. What in the world? But when you have this awareness of how people work, you can really gain a better understanding of what's driving their behavior. So this creative leader could say, okay, I know that this sense of stability is what really keeps you grounded. And then that structured leader can say, I understand that innovation is really what moves you. So having this understanding of how each other work, that really gives you a better perspective of how people can work together. So as far as removing that negativity, again, it goes into listening and then having that empathy. And in many leadership books, as you read through them, you'll find a lot of pages and written documentation on communication. And that is not a coincidence because communication plays a very big role, especially in this world where we're seeing more work going remote and hybrid. It's not the same where we used to be in office, where it was more common to be in office and you could easily check in with an employee or your manager and just have a quick chat. Nowadays, you have to be more intentional. And that's what I would encourage, more intentional conversations with the people you work with. So as far as building a more positive work environment, it's really in reinforcing that communication and being there for others.
I love that. One quote that comes to me is it here you go. I believe it is oh my gosh. It's the Brene Brown quote about um transparency and how you want to be overly transparent with your person, letting them know, hey, transparency is kind. I think that's what it is. Or clear is kind. Clear is kind.
Clear
It
is
just
kind.
it takes me a second. I'm like, it's in my spirit because for me, sometimes I over communicate, but I realize I'm like, you know what? It's not because I don't do that because I don't feel like I'm enough. I do that because I really want them to understand where I'm coming from. And a lot can get lost in text. A lot can get lost in emails, which is a completely different thing than having a conversation like the one we're having right now. It's different. We're more face to face. It and you can hear the inflection of my tone. You can hear I'm excited. You can't sometimes hear that from an email, even if you write it in all caps, which sounds like you're yelling, by the way. Or with exclamation points at the end, yelling, by the way, but it's more of a softer approach. So, one thing that I actually want to ask you, you, sir, are a 15th marathon runner. Is
I,
that what
I'm
happened?
I'm training for number 15. That is correct, Sharente.
Oh my good gracious, googly moogly. Oh, so I have a question for you about this, sir,
Absolutely.
because I know that it takes one resilience, and I know you failed a lot. Okay, when it comes to not getting to where you wanted to get or the timing that you're looking to get. My question to you is how do you face challenges and setbacks?
Absolutely. And it's not easy, especially in my journey running a marathon. When I first started, I was working my way up. I decided to start with 5K, then move up to 10K, half marathon, and then the full marathon. But it's not without its challenges. I just remember first, with that discipline, you have to make sure you're putting in the time each day to really just get used to the training. I remember when I started, like early in the days when I started, I would be laying in bed, not wanting to put my running shoes on. But I realized, you know what, let's take it step by step. Just put my shoes on, step outside, see what happens, and just keep doing that for a while. And then your mind just gets used to it when you get used to a certain routine. And that's something I would recommend if you want to try a new venture. It's setting up a routine that you can get used to so you can take one step at a time. And then over time, I mean, when I stepped up, of course, there were days when I would be out in the trails just completely tired and exhausted, wondering why I got myself into this. But I would remind myself to keep going, understanding what I'm trying to accomplish. Because for many people, a marathon is a big goal, and it is. But for when I remind myself why I signed up, it was like a bucket list. I really wanted to do this. And when you have that purpose within you, that's something that'll carry you forward. So training for a marathon, it's not without its challenges. It's absolutely, there were so many, but it's that purpose that really reminded me to keep moving forward. And over the years, yes, I am training for number 15.
I love that. I love to hear it. And I wrote a couple of things down because I told you I'm an active listener. So when I have thoughts that pop up, instead of trying to listen to respond, I write things down so I can eventually come back to it. It's one of the ways that I help myself effectively communicate. And something that you said was baby steps, one step at a time, one moment at a time. and you have those negative thoughts, or the ants, I like to call them, automatic negative thoughts that came up saying, yes. And you're like, no, I'm going to do it. I know I may not feel like it, but I'm not going to complain because I'm choosing to actively show up for myself, because my physical well being is just as important as my mental well being, which is just as important as my spiritual well being, because I am multifaceted and I love it. So, because we have to do a little bit of a wrap up, I here the listeners need to know, where can they find you, Jess?
Absolutely. There's two ways you can find me. First, my website, famleadconsulting.com. And the more easier way is I encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn. Search for Jessper Maquindang. I'm more than happy to have conversations about leadership, personal growth, professional development. Feel free to reach out. Happy to have those conversations with you.
Perfect. Y'all heard it here. He let us know where to find him. Please seek him out, especially if you're looking for his type of support, which is amazing support, by the way. If you are a leader at a Fortune 500 company and you need that additional assistance, you don't know where to go, and you are sick and tired of being sick and tired of people telling you you are not the best leader, and you're having bad performance reviews after bad performance reviews, please reach out to him and seek the help that you need, because at the end of the day, we all want you to live your best life. That's why I do Affirmation Station, is because all of us deserve to walk in our divine oration, aka our divine speech, in the way that we express ourselves, and fully authentic. So, y'all, this is the end of the topic section. Now we're about to go to gifts.